We're good? We're live?
And we're about to transition.
Okay.
All right.
All right, evening everybody. This is TC here from Crank Revolution Bike Shop. Today we are going to talk about e-bikes. E-bikes are kind of the new hot product. They have been out for more than 10 years in terms of like major bike brands putting out an e-bike. But yeah, in the last few iterations, the last few kind of updates to what they are, they've become a much better, much nicer package. So the bike that I have here, which is one of my favorite e-bikes that we sell, is the Specialized Vado SL 4.0 EQ. It's a long name, I know. But so effectively, like at this point, you know, Specialized and other kind of top manufacturers have all gone away from any kind of a hub drive motor. So all of the motors for mostly the kind of current e-bikes are in the crank or bottom bracket. That is, from kind of testing, design, and analysis, one of the most efficient ways of adding electronic power to a bike. It also is nice, low, and centralized. So it gives you a very stable, very, you know, centered kind of ride feel. And on the mountain bikes, where that's where the position is, it actually jumps a lot nicer too, which is interesting when you start sending mountain bikes pretty far. But so yeah, kind of today is the start of a two-part. My vision for this was that part one was going to be kind of overview of e-bikes in general. What are the classes? What are the variations? How are they made? What when you're shopping for them, what you kind of look for. And then part two would be more kind of tech and tuning. So pretty much every e-bike on the market nowadays has a companion app that allows you to kind of tune the motor response, motor feel, and kind of we'll go a lot more into the nitty-gritty on that stuff, along with battery numbers and power number, a lot more technical next class, which will be next Thursday, is what I have envisioned. We do have somebody in-house today. So Nick, do you have any questions on e-bikes that you would like to have answered?
Just kind of general
Okay.
setup and what makes it an e-bike.
Yeah. Okay, cool, yeah, and so it's, pretty, Nick's question is more kind of general inquiry, and yeah, what makes it an e-bike?
Components that you need.
And the necessary components is always a good step. So, yeah, we'll just jump right in then. So the necessary components to make it an e-bike are having a motor, some kind of drive mechanism, and a battery. You get something to power their drive mechanism. So yeah, those are the two things that are kind of absolutely necessary. Along that, other parts that the electronic motor setups have at this point. So yeah, here this is our motor. You can't see much on the screen, but also you can't see much if you're going to turn the bike around. But yeah, it is contained within the bottom bracket and drive unit here. This one is set up as a kind of sprag clutch. So you see that I can move those crank arms and the chainring does not move. Once I pedal and engage, it immediately is there and then does not spin. And the chainring can move independent of the arms as well. So basically what that is, as the motor is engaged, what you have there is, it's able to drive the chainring independently of what you're riding. And that's how, what you're pedaling. And that's how it installs more power than what you're doing. So this setup is built off of a torque sensor. So in the bottom bracket, there's a sensor that measures how much torque, how much effort you're putting into the wheels, how much you're putting into the pedals, and then based on which setting you have and how you have the motor tuned, is how much of a multiplier on top of your power it adds. So the peak for this is 250 watts, and that is a steady peak, not a fluctuating one. And so basically, yeah, if you're putting out 250 watts, it can put out 250 watts consistently up to 28 miles an hour where the motor will cut off. And that's kind of a hard stop. Here in the US, yes, we do get a 28 mile an hour speed limit. Most commonly that I understand in the European world, 32 kilometers an hour, which is more like 20. So yeah, a little bit faster out here. It's kind of nice. But so yeah, the motor will assist you up to 2 times your power up to that point. This is the smaller SL kind of system from Specialized. They also do have, if you can see it, I've got the Turbo Taro 3.0. Too many bikes in here for me to keep track of every single number that everything is. But so the Taro there is their like full power system, which will do up to 4 times your output, but still cutting off at that 28 miles an hour. So that's kind of, yeah, 2 of these systems that Specialized offers. But yeah, if we want to go to like what are the parts of this, so what all is going on here. So here the battery is contained with this bike inside of the down tube. You don't have ability to remove it unless you're dropping out the motor, which is not an easy task that I'd recommend someone to do in any way regularly. So here's our battery, here's our motor. This is the charging port here. You can just see the tail end of it. That's the cover. And so yeah, charging port is kind of slotted, kind of keyed. So yeah, don't cram it in there, be gentle, but also look at which orientation it should go. From the motor here, we've got a wire running to a cadence sensor back by the disc brake here. And so, I guess not cadence, wheel torque sensor. So the motor needs to know how fast the bike is moving for it to cut the power. And so that wheel sensor back there is what's giving the motor real-time data as to how fast you're going and how, when to cut the assist, when to adjust that as well. So that's something where I've heard stories of bike development folks who are taking out new wheels to try with their e-bikes, and they forgot to put the wheel sensors on there, and they got out there and they had to turn around. Because if the motor can't get any data as to how fast you're going, it is not going to assist. That's the safest thing to do. Up top here, we have the main controller. So this bike, once I turn it on here, headlight will turn on, tail light will turn on. So this is what's kind of giving us, our ride time data in terms of how much battery. So this one has 10 small blue lights. If you want to feel free to come on up, you certainly can take a look. Right now we're at 30% power, and on our sport or eco sport turbo, so we're on our sport setting. And so yeah, it's just that little top bar right there. What's nice about one of the things that they have here is we get a secondary controller on the handlebar, so we can adjust the power settings from the motor being off, but the system being on. Our eco, our lowest level of assist, sport medium, turbo full fast. So that's kind of where kind of this system, the records apart. So you have your handlebar controller, your main controller, top tube display, battery, motor, and cadence sensor or wheel sensor. And we also do have wired in front and rear headlights with this. And so it's a nice kind of complete battery package. So this bike has the smaller battery from Specialized. They also do a larger one on the next step up. That difference, basically, the range that you can expect out of this bike is about 20% less than their full-size battery. And that's everything going, everything the same, which is one of the things where it's really, really difficult in the e-bike conversation to give numbers. What's my range? 60 miles, is it 63 miles, is it 70? It's all of those numbers become very, very, very variable based on wind and wind direction, based on rider weight, based on rider height, based on position. There are so many factors that run into how long will something last. And so range anxiety is a pretty, normal thing coming into shopping for an e-bike. At this point, myself on a bike like this, I could expect to get kind of 60 to 70 miles out of a battery charged ride. All of those things, there's so many, because of the low, medium, and high settings, that variation grows even more. If you put it on that eco mode, it's not out of the realm of seeing 100 miles on a single charge. And so, from the e-bike world, I mean, there's a lot of things that are kind of new and exciting and, kind of coming up. And my biggest thing that makes this bike make so much more sense as a e-bike option is its overall weight. So something like this, which is a kind of ready, set, totally ready to go, serious commuter bike, car replacement bike. You have fenders, you have a rack, you have a kickstand. You've got all of those things that make it easy to live with for the bike, and it's only about 35 pounds. And so as some of us who, have ridden some older all-steel 70s Schwinn's, yeah, I've had a bike that didn't have a motor that weighed 35 pounds. So to be able to have that assist, be able to have that option in a light, easy to live with, easy to move around package, it's great. One of the things that kind of really sets this, system together is that, for us here in Illinois right now, it's flat, and it's very rare that we have, strong hills that we, will really need to use the maximum amount of the assist. And so, the e-bike kind of gives you that flexibility to kind of choose how much effort you put in while riding the bike. Oof, I've got a headache today. I hope it hurts. It's not feeling great. Any other questions pop up and we're still good?
All specialized e-bikes have those 3 modes where on a mountain bike it would be eco, trail, and turbo?
Yes, yeah, they changed out the sport term for the trail term on the mountain bike. But with how variable within the app they are, you can dial in the low setting to be minimal. They're just giving you 3 ready set preset modes, and you can do whatever you want within them. Is that the extender battery that you're bringing over? Yeah. And so, one of the things that they also do offer is a range extending battery. So if you are range conscious and want to add, this is a 200 watt hour. Oof, I said numbers were next class. I believe this is about a 200 watt hour addition. So to my knowledge, this is a 500 watt hour battery, 400 maybe, something like that. So this adds, another 200 watt hours. So if it's 400, it's 50% more battery power. If it's 500, it's 40% more battery power. So this is a kind of not so heavy, fits into a water bottle cage, and then therefore plugs nicely in on the bike, and a nice kind of simple compact way to extend the life of your individual single ride. That's my thing with how far you realistically can get out of the charges on these. The range extenders are, you're 100 plus miles in a day. That's a long ride. It's a 50-mile commute each way. That's a really long commute. So a lot of the kind of range anxiety stuff for myself, it's kind of gone away, because as long as you stay up on, not starting a ride with a 20% charge, you're really going to have a really tough time wearing that bike, wearing that charge out. And that being said, if you were to run out of battery on this bike, because that Sprag clutch feature, it pedals like just anything else, just like any other bike, and it's just a little bit heavier. So it's not a, huge draw, huge kind of cost to have that, in that situation. And that's where, e-bikes have really come such a long way. The technology has really kind of stepped up and moved forward to provide a much better user experience, much more flexible user experience. And that's just kind of, this is effectively 4th or 5th generation for Specialized on an e-bike, and it really offers a whole lot more of a package. And then this, the full power bikes, we'll just transition this one here, part of my grunt. Because it's about a 50-pound bike. And so, slightly different kind of concept and idea here, but definitely something that is a whole lot of fun. So,
without the seat post sliding down.
Yeah. So it's always kind of nerve-wracking when you're first building something like this and you put it up in the stand, and if you don't have it clamped well, they can definitely slide and cause massive problems. Do we have any questions from our viewership?
Just people are wondering what types of e-bikes. You're assuming
Okay.
type now, you can show cruiser.
And so, so what types of bikes are there? There's quite a few. We'll go through general classifications of e-bikes. So, the big part of the conversation currently with e-bikes is what class is it? So e-bikes exist in class 1, class 2, and class 3 designations. Class 1 is your lowest powered e-bike. That has a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And that's really kind of the only, like, from what I've read, discerning factor that really makes what Class 1 is Class 1. At this point, I think I only have one Class 1 bike in. And so they are the, like, kind of rarest to find. We're going to skip then Class 2 for now and go to Class 3. It makes sense eventually. Class 3 is what we most commonly have. So that is a, non-throttled e-bike. So it has to be pedal assist. You have to be pedaling for that, engagement to begin. And it has a max of 28 miles an hour. Class 2, why it's in between, I don't know, but it is. Class 2 is a throttled e-bike that can go up to 28 miles an hour. And so that's the, I don't know of any really like major manufacturers, Specialized, Trek, Giant, that are making a throttled e-bike. That's a lot of the kind of smaller online direct things. And basically what, that appeals to a very different rider. Someone that does not want a necessarily riding a bike experience because they have a throttle. That goes to more moto, dirt bike, moped, more in that kind of a class and category as to how it's used and what it's for when you have a throttle. So yeah, everything that we have that we will continue to stock is all in that Class 1 or Class 3. Definitely more in that riding a bike that gives you an assist. And so in terms of other what types of bikes are there? So at this point, whatever you want to see in a bike, it probably exists in an e-bike form. So yeah, the two that I have here are our most popular bikes. So yeah, the Taro here is hey, I want to get into mountain biking, but I'm nervous about being able to climb up the hills, and want to go ride with my friends who are been doing it for years. E-bikes there are a great equalizer. So this one here, because of that, up to 4 times your assist. I got more e-bikes being wheeled up to me. Provides much more power available to you, and you can really kind of choose how much and how hard you want to ride and how much you want to let the bike assist you. Same kind of things here where you have a battery pack here. This one has a stem display. That's what's kind of gonna read you what's going on. You have your high and low adjustments on the handlebar as well. And then along the lines of them still being all of the bikes that we're going to show today are still unique bikes that have 9, 10, 11, or 12 gears available to them. So it's not like you are locked into one gear that's exceptionally high, and the motor is able to assist you to normalize that out. You are still able to ride and shift through like you normally would on any other bike, and take advantage of the gear advantages and gear range that you have to cover more terrain. So yeah, there are hardtail mountain bikes, there are commuting bikes, there are road bikes, there are comfort bikes, there are full suspension mountain bikes, there are cargo bikes, there are touring. Every single bike type effectively at this point can be made into an e-bike or is made already as an e-bike. So kind of the biggest thing for if someone is shopping for an e-bike, riding a few is a really great place to start, because different companies, different motors, different systems, and different bike and bike riding positions will speak to one rider over another as to kind of what's going to be best for you and kind of fitting it, creating your best position. We're fortunate enough here to where we have a 7-mile paved path across the street from us and 17 miles currently of mountain bike trails. When these things are rideable, because today is a nasty, rainy, wet January day, when these things are available, come on by. You can always take a bike for a ride, and we will be doing Saturday morning 9 a.m. bike rides that'll be e-bike recommended, I think is our best terminology. So all are welcome, and if you don't have an e-bike, as long as we have them in stock and one that fits you nicely, you can certainly take one of that, borrow one of ours for that ride. Because that's the biggest thing, getting on the bikes, getting that experience, understanding how it speaks to you. I've definitely gotten in the weeds before, and will next week, about all of the numbers, all the math. Okay, well, how fast is this? And what's the torque response? And what's the max voltage? And okay, all of that stuff, that all exists. But how does that all translate to you on top of the bike? That rider experience is really the most important part. And you can have all the best numbers in the world, but if you don't enjoy riding that bike, it's not the right bike for you. So the best thing that we can recommend here is getting on the bikes, getting out riding, trying these things, and kind of seeing how it relates and how it kind of brings into you and your life and your riding options. Anything else, Nick?
Is that kind of a smart motor with the speed controller integrated?
Okay, and so next question was, is this considered a smart motor because of how how things are integrated in terms of speed sensors and such? So it is a smart kind of Bluetooth enabled system because you are able to plug into it through your phone. Specific nomenclature there. They've done a really great job with these motors currently, where they are kind of foolproof. So we've had, when I was working for Specialized, some of the older generation stuff, we had more complex ways of how to update and how to change the firmware and how to adjust the internal software of the bike. At this point, these systems nowadays are very straightforward. It's it's very similar to like a car's diagnostic. So when I inevitably do have an issue with some kind of electric bike and electric hardware, once I plug in and kind of take a look at the system, I get an error report from basically what the controller and the battery motor, when they're communicating. If something's having a fault, I'll have a reason as to why. What's nice is that system right now is integrated with the entire Specialized system, so my warranty rep can look at this bike's serial number and see its error codes and be that far ahead of the game in terms of assisting me and assisting my rider in terms of getting them back onto their bike nicely. So yes, the system does kind of record what's going on, motor temperature errors, anything that is going on, and if it's within a range, it doesn't really kind of set off any red flags. But if it goes beyond that, yeah, the troubleshooting with these, in terms of when it is, does come in and we have to figure out what's going on, it's gotten so much easier. Yeah, because of that, because of how well the system is, and we're 4th generation in, 10 years of these being, there's been a lot of trial and error and making these things better and better incrementally. But at this point, yeah, it's very simple, very straightforward for us to identify what's wrong, what the solution is, and get it taken care of. And so I had a few motors that I swapped a couple weeks ago. Both of them, they had 2 separate issues, but yeah, both of them, the onboard computer had recorded its error, had basically flagged saying, hey, this is the problem. Step 1 with any kind of troubleshooting for an e-bike is checking the firmware that exists. On these bikes that I have here, we have a firmware in the display unit, a firmware for the battery, and a firmware for the motor. Those 3 things are the most common place that have independent software, independent code that does need to be tweaked and changed occasionally. And so, yeah, basically troubleshooting step 1, yeah, check the firmware, make sure everything's up to date. If something isn't, update it, and then kind of see how it performs after that. And then, yeah, if the problem persists post update, then yeah, you kind of look at if there's a part that needs to be replaced, or something that is causing that issue. Yeah, what's nice about kind of this kind of total package is they are waterproof, not intended to be submerged and ridden like that, because it's really hard to ride a bike underwater. It's not a good idea. It's going to cause a lot of problems. But so, yeah, you don't have to worry about, like it is today on a January rainy, nasty day, is my e-bike going to short out? Because, yeah, no, these were definitely intended to be ridden year-round. The plugs, everything there is, some kind of gasket, some kind of sealing to keep that, water out of that plugged area. Yeah, they've done a really great job to not really have, water issues, and it's something that I've never seen both as a warranty rep issue or as a shop level issue. So, yeah, what do we got?
If you own an e-bike, how is the regular maintenance different?
Okay, and so yeah, that question was, if you own an e-bike, how is regular maintenance different? And so, depending upon what bike it is, some of the older hub drive motors have a little bit more kind of necessary maintenance in terms of maintaining the, keeping everything tight, keeping everything safe back there. but with the more current kind of crank and bottom bracket driven systems, it is just the same bike. So you have the same wheel, same brakes, same fork, same drivetrain. All of these parts are the same and they require the same amount of maintenance. Small asterisk there. E-bikes, because of the chain drive, because of the added power of the motor, you are going to wear out chains faster. You're going to wear out your cassette faster. It's putting out more power. And so most commonly what you'll see, you can wear out a chain. So normally my number for how often do you replace a chain, 2,000 miles is my just blanket generic number. Do I need to move over?
You're all right.
Okay. So yeah, for e-bikes, 1,000 miles, 1,200 miles, it may not cut it in half, but I've definitely seen people that can, cook them out pretty quick, but some that get a little more life out of it. It's all these things are on a pretty wide, wide range, wide spectrum as to how often they wear out. The other thing that's most common to wear out is the smallest cog of the cassette. Because of that added power, a lot of folks stay in that higher, highest gear, which has the smallest amount of teeth, the smallest amount of wrap, and takes the most amount of torque abuse under high power. So that specific cog wears out quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, with a lot of these systems, we're running, I think this is a 9-speed in front of me. Average cassette cost, cassette replacement, $35 to $50. Chains, 20, 25 bucks. So it's not like we're talking about high cost things. And yeah, if you're buying a new chain, a new cassette every year, your bike's just going to ride really nice every year. That's the kind of other thing. Just staying on top of this stuff and replacing things regularly. Everything kind of works a lot nicer. Some of the a lot of the chain rings are slightly unique because they are for a system like this all one by. You're not going to have a front derailleur that can shift, because that with the chainring able to spin independently could cause some serious damage. So yeah, the one by system is best for that. But yeah, wearing that chainring out, you do need to kind of find sometimes a specific chainring to work with that e-bike crank, because they are sometimes slightly more unique. This one, not really anything different. The only thing that's kind of tough to find is the 9-speed version of it. And so yeah, regular maintenance on this stuff, there really isn't too much that changes with the e-bike. Just things are wearing out faster because of the added power. Brakes. Yeah, once again, we're in Illinois. Brakes are such a rare problem because we don't have prolonged descents of more than 60 seconds is a long descent here, and I'm still shocked by it, even though I grew up here. Used to, 30 minutes going down a mountain is a lot of fun, and all you do is touch your brakes and try not to die. A little bit different here in Illinois where you don't stop pedaling. But so, tires, all of those things that are, use items are going to wear out. Tires aren't going to really see any more wear because of an e-bike, besides a little bit of added weight. But a lot of tires come kind of preset for e-bike specific ratings, which are a more durable, more built up, more robust tire. Does anybody think of anything else in terms of like a maintenance conversation? I mean, the other thing would be like, the firmware updates. Staying on top of, those systems, because, so let me reset my conversation. All right. So firmware updates are the only other kind of piece of regular maintenance that are really necessary for e-bikes. And that's, adjusting the internal software. If I have a bike and it's working great, do I need a firmware update? Not necessarily. A system that is all paired on the same generation firmware should work together nicely. Basically, what changes as the bike will start to throw errors or potentially start to have any problems, there could be, that's why they updated and changed the firmwares for how it to, for the bike to maybe shut down the motor a little bit sooner so it doesn't hit a higher heat and protect the internal parts of the motor better. So staying on top of those firmware updates, and for us, basically every e-bike that comes in, we check it. It's a quick and easy process, so we plug it in, we take a look at it, and see what firmware it has. Now, this conversation, because of the wide range of e-bikes that exist in this world, it's really easy for me as a shop to only talk about specialized e-bikes. because it's a very controlled, very set ecosystem. When you expand to the entirety of e-bikes in this world, including many things that are put together from brands that no one's ever heard of, that are sold on who knows what sites, that's when things get really, 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 really messy. We've had experiences with a rider who bought an e-bike from Amazon. That e-bike then had a motor issue. We're not exactly sure what. And trying to work with the manufacturer and going through back and forth in email is trying to figure out what's wrong and what part do they have. It basically showed up that that manufacturer couldn't tell us, based on that bike's serial number, what motor we actually had. They had put out a number of different bikes with a number of different motors, and they weren't sure what it was. So that bike became a 40-pound, 45-pound bicycle that has a battery and a motor on it, but you can't actually use them. So, and that's one of those where having a brand that's offering back-end support, offering training, a lot of information for their bikes, their riders, their retailers. Yeah, it's a much safer, much more understood, and much more efficient setup, because this bike is going to work and work for a good long time, and you'll be able to get replacement parts for it when they need to show up, and it'll be pretty quick and straightforward when that happens. Cool. All right, that's the firmware side. Yeah.
Riding in extreme temperatures, that will affect the range and battery health.
Okay.
Then are there concerns with charging and the lithium battery safety?
Yeah, and so that question was, riding in extreme temperatures, does that affect the range, battery health, etc., the kind of the e-bike system itself, and then charging and just general lithium ion battery kind of inquiry as well. So riding in extreme temperatures, I haven't seen numbers, I haven't seen anyone really kind of test this. Realistically, it would make sense that we've all had, if anybody's gone skiing and you've got your phone on the outside of your jacket pocket and it gets cold, you turn it on and it shuts off immediately. The battery gets too cold to be able to process and move things better. The e-bikes, I've never seen this issue. I could realistically see potentially a problem with if you have your bike, for example, on a roof rack and you're driving an hour in 5-degree weather to go for a ride. That realistically, in my opinion, could probably get that battery cold enough to where it's going to have some issues in terms of maintaining consistent voltage. That's something that kind of logically, I had that issue with my Di2 system once with a bike that I had on a car rack. I'm not sure if the scale of these things, because of how large the battery is, how large the motor is, if that would overcome that. But something that is possible. It's also hard to test when we haven't had too many cold days here, and so I mean, realistically, yes, I would have to assume there would be some variation based on extreme temperatures, because that should have global and environmental factors do absolutely affect these things. But to what degree, I don't know, and haven't ever seen anything that kind of really kind of test that or outlined that at a good academic level. And then lithium ion kind of battery, like with all lithium ion batteries, they do start to degrade over time. The batteries that are being produced today are better than the batteries that were produced 2 years ago, and significantly better than, this technology has gotten better and better and better year over year. Small improvements have yielded a very much nicer, much more efficient battery. And so, these batteries do, over time start to lose their peak power. So you go from 100% battery capacity to 95. It does start to trickle down. The warranty on Specialized bikes currently, and I hope I'm not wrong on this, is still 2 years or 300 charge cycles. What's funny is if you take 300 charge cycles and apply that to 2 years, that's almost a charge every other day. So that's a lot of riding. When we're talking about up to 60 to 80 miles on a battery charge, that's a lot of miles every other day to kind of be churning through. So so I mean, they do cover it, and replacement batteries would kind of be are available to these bikes. But a lot of times, once you, in terms of like me living with it, Jeremy living with his e-bike, there is that range anxiety is such a like kind of newbie, kind of new e-bike problem. And then once you get more comfortable with the bike, it's got plenty. And I've finished rides after being totally spent, and the bike is at 30%, and I'm at 0. So the bike could have kept going, but I couldn't. And so I mean, there's a lot of they are lithium-ion batteries. They still do have a lot of the same problems over time in terms of degradation, but that's getting better year over year, and replacement batteries are available. And so if you no longer, that's one where actually for a lot of folks with the kind of battery stress kind of ideas, so the extender battery is a really nice option for folks that are worried about and trying to maintain the best health of the internal battery. You can run the extender battery as the primary first pull for charge. So you can kind of have this, wear this, run this through most commonly, and keep the best health possible for your internal battery. Yeah, that makes sense. If you're really battery conscious, but I'll say, the batteries work, the systems work, and they have not really showed, from my perspective, any kind of problems in terms of inconsistency or poor health. A lot of things that Specialized did that really made this a lot better was when they went to a more internal and more fixed battery. When the batteries were removable and regularly removable, the contact points for that battery were getting damaged, were getting bent, with moving the battery in and out. That caused more problems than just having that battery there, having it fixed, having it in there, and not being able to regularly or necessarily easily remove that battery from the bike. It's actually a benefit to not have a removable battery at this point. Any other questions, anything?
Hot take on the spot. Are e-bikes cheating?
All right, cool. This is a great one because I answer this question every day. So that question was, are e-bikes cheating? And so I'm going to sound like a Specialized fanboy, but I really think they summed it up nicely. It's you, only faster. That's been their tagline for their e-bikes for many, many years. So why that's such a, in my opinion, a perfect way of thinking about it. However you want to ride your bike, as hard, as much effort, as much exertion as you want, you can. You can have that motor turned off and you're riding a heavier bike. Or you can have the motor turned on and you're just going faster. So they're by no means cheating because you're out riding a bike and you have to be riding. You can't be sitting back on a throttle. And so, yes, in a analog bike race, if they were to show up with an e-bike, that's cheating because that is actually cheating. That's against the rules. But in terms of just any human out on a bike ride, riding an e-bike, no, it's absolutely not cheating. Cheating is, not riding. It's something where the fact that you're out doing it, that you're out riding, that's what's good. That's what we want. That's what's good, healthy, fit, and fun. There are many, many people in this world that are not cyclists, but they will be e-bikes, the e-cyclists. That will be something that speaks to someone, and they feel more safety, more security, more confidence, more faith that they can get from point A to point B, get finish that lap, get all the way home because they have that assist available to them. As someone who is a rather relatively fit and fairly trained cyclist, when I lived in Utah, we absolutely rode e-bikes. Early season, that was our lifeline. Because how we rode out there and how big mountain riding is typically in Utah for off-road, you will climb for up to an hour. And then you'll descend for 30 minutes. And then you'll do another lap. When I was riding my analog bikes, even in my peak fitness, I struggled to do 2 laps of that Corner Canyon lap that it was my favorite. With my e-bike, I could do 3 early season. The fact that I could do a 3rd lap and spend an extra hour and a half on my bike meant that I was going to be stronger for the year. And the e-bike allowed me to ride more than I would have if I didn't have that assist. It's absolutely not cheating. That's my opinion and I'm sticking to it. And they're fun. Because it's you, only faster. And who doesn't want to ride faster? Now I've definitely been in that totally emasculating position where myself, a couple of my buddies were climbing up a canyon on our analog bikes, really putting out power, struggling, going as hard as we can. And, effectively, this little old lady on a cruiser e-bike just came blitzing past us. And there was just that like, there's that ego hit because you're like, oh, I should be faster than that person because that's how a lot of competitive cyclists feel. But at the same time, you should be happy that they are out riding. You should be happy that they're able to kind of explore this world as you do and as with as much effort as they choose. Also, what someone else is doing has nothing to say on how you're riding. So, I don't know, just pedal more, ride more. So I'm a big proponent. I'm a big fan because I think it's a great leveler of the playing field. There's a lot of people that are nervous to come out and ride, nervous to join up. And so I know a couple of father and son duos where the son is on their analog bike, typically racing, doing this very regularly, and the father is able to ride with their son because they have an e-bike. Is that a bad thing? Are we saying that's cheating? Because it's getting someone out and able to ride and share a moment with somebody is great. So yeah, there we go. That's my feel on e-bikes and are they cheating? They're not.
Impressive how just half a pedal strike or half a pedal stroke on an e-bike and from a near stop can get up a technical feature on it.
Yeah, and that's really true. So one of the things that's really nice about the full power bikes is that how quick that torque response can be and how it can just allow you to you get stuck, you're not able to climb up something, take 4 steps back, put power down, the motor will help you kick in and help you climb up rocks, roots, etc. It is definitely it's a big leveler of mountain biking is like the most common place that I see it, because I've been riding mountain bikes and raced them for a number of years, and so it's been quite a bit. I'm a little bit faster than a lot of people, and the e-bike with that assist allows a lot of people kind of that ease of entry where cool, I can climb up a lot of hills, but if somebody is getting into the sport, it's harder to put down power, it's harder to stay on top of these things, it's harder to have that control. That e-bike kind of makes it just that much simpler, much more easy for them. Yeah, they're great. How are we doing on time? Cool, 10 minutes.
It was something to really get used to from coming from an analog full suspension to sitting on a Levo for the first time, and then even just getting out of the parking lot with that power kicking in right away. And then if you don't have your pedal assist off, the weight could be difficult to move forward.
Yeah, and so one of the things to always think about with e-bikes and kind of is, so as somebody who both rides analog and e-bikes, as you approach a trail, depending on which bike you're on, you're going to approach different problems differently. I am, especially on, for example, this bike, much more of a monster truck kind of idea. I've got the power, and if I just keep it online, it's going to do what I want to do. Just point and shoot, it's going to go in the right direction. Where with a lot of my lighter, more technical bikes, I am more apt to kind of change lines, jumping laterally, bunny hopping things, kind of adjusting my body position on the bike far more gracefully than on something like this, because I am kind of sitting back and relying on that power. Not saying that you can't bunny hop this bike, but it's a lot more effort having a 50-pound bike to jump as opposed to a 21-pound bike to jump. So you approach kind of what you're, the situation, approach what you're riding differently based on the amount of power that you have, the weight of the bike, the weight of the setup. And that definitely kind of plays into what makes an e-bike rider different from analog things. But I mean it's just a different ride, and it's fun to be a monster truck sometimes. Kind of just throw the bike and let it do its thing. I once had a e-fat bike, which, I mean, there's still some out there. Actually, a lot of them exist in the hunting world, as just taken to a lot of those things. And so that was what was really nice about that bike, especially in the cheating conversation. So I would be able to go out and ride in the 8 to 10 inches of fresh snow and kind of mat down the trail for everybody. When, if you are doing that on an analog bike, you are just going to slog at 400 watts and not be able to make it anywhere, because it's just so, so much resistance, so much resistance from the snow that you're trying to mat down. And the e-bike allowed me to do that, allowed me to kind of groom the trail a little bit. So not cheating. Definitely not cheating. Yeah, so yeah, my kind of, start wrapping this up. So yeah, that was, I hope, a good kind of overview of what e-bikes are, how they exist, and where they started, where they've gotten to. Next week, yeah, we'll do definitely a lot more nitty-gritty power output, nominal power output, watt hour on the batteries, tuning of the motor, torque response, those things. Kind of what are all of those terms? How do they function, and how would they translate to rider experience? And should I tune my stuff with the apps that exist, like Mission Control from Specialized, and yeah. But yeah, also the other thing is just ride a few e-bikes, try them out, come on by. I've got half dozen different bikes to ride. Because they provide very different experiences. And yeah, I've only shown 2 because they're big, bulky, difficult to move around. And yeah, we're not moving the camera around, so we're not going to get any kind of really close, fun action shots. But yeah, we've also got the Specialized Como in stock, a singular Specialized Como SL. Vado SL is kind of across the board. That's the biggest one. Taro, I think that's it right now. Yeah. And so yeah, getting experience on these bikes, getting an understanding of how that translates to you and your ride experience, and then taking them for a longer ride to see if that's something that you're interested in. Yeah, cool. So yeah, next week, we'll definitely do a whole lot more math nerdery and e-bike numbers, because I haven't looked at them in a while, so I gotta get back up to date on this stuff.
21 gigawatts.
Exactly, yes, 21 gigawatts. But yeah, if anybody's got any other questions, we got a couple more minutes. Otherwise, I am ready to sign off because I have a headache and I'm ready to go home.